Machine Gun Kelly get caught in the fray. Facts and logic with a twist of chest. Strip it down to truth, yeah, forget the rest. Humor pulls the lies right out of the park. Look beyond the shadows that set the dark. Sparks of laughter fire up the night, bringing clarity where they blur the fight. Cut through the chaos, yeah, the tangled lies. Steampunk Kelly with a set of clear eyes. Truths and jokes gonna rock this show. Step into light where the real facts glow.
Hello, and welcome to the Punch Show. How is your Tuesday going? We've got a big primary day going on. A couple of contests between centrist Democrats and progressive Democrats that MS Now has been maybe going a little bit hyperbolic on. They're kind of doing this story to death. It's like I've said before, I think this is the place to make your voice heard on these things. If you don't like where the Democratic Party is at, this is your chance to move the party in a direction that's better. It's not in the general elections. General elections, I say vote blue no matter who. But right now, if it's not blue enough for you, make it more blue. That's what you got to do. That's the new motto. If you want it more blue, the primaries are what you got to do. So anyway, there's this Jessica Huang girl, I think, is that her name? I shouldn't say girl, she's a woman. She's a grown woman, grown adult woman, who back in 2020 pointed out the pretty very real origins of Thanksgiving and how they're related to genocide, and she had the audacity to ponder, maybe, we shouldn't be celebrating it. She said cancel Thanksgiving in 2020 one time in a tweet. And people are acting like she's out there aggressively crusading against Thanksgiving and not looking in the context of her tweet, which was about, we did bring death and disease. It's not something she made up. We killed a whole bunch of Native Americans, in case you forgot. I have a friend. I never really thought about Thanksgiving before from the Native American side, to be honest, until I had a coworker, and they sent out a standard Happy Thanksgiving card to everybody at work, and she was very offended by this, and that's because she was raised on an Indian reservation. She's not just, I had a Native American grandmother type. Like she was literally raised on a reservation, absolutely, like 100%, Native American ancestry, and not just, genetically, but culturally. And and then so she started telling me why she was bothered about Thanksgiving, and I thought, well, you have a good point. And I think that most people that celebrate Thanksgiving aren't really celebrating the genocide of Native Americans, but I think that doesn't discount the fact that we do kind of genocide Native Americans. Name of the tribe that we had that first Thanksgiving with, they were actually, we had known them for, or not we, but the colonizers had been there about 10 years, and there was some issues with that, where the one tribe had gotten diseased and a lot of them died, and so then they allied with the colonials because there was another tribe that they were, had a rivalry with, and so it was like a military alliance with the colonizers. And colonizers, like the year before, they had a really terrible crop because of weather and stuff, and then the year that of the first Thanksgiving, they had a really good harvest, and so they were celebrating for 3 days. And the tribe that they had this alliance with came and ate with them and celebrated with them and everything, and that was the first Thanksgiving. But it wasn't even unrelated to the fact that diseases had killed a bunch of their tribe. And that was not on purpose, but later on, we, like 100 years later, we were literally giving infected blankets that had smallpox on them to Indian tribes for the purpose of killing them. We practiced germ warfare on Native Americans. Like, that's part of our history. I don't, people don't like it. That's a problem. But that's the type of thing that this Wong person was talking about when she said cancel Thanksgiving. It's like, it sounds extreme on the surface until you look at everything else she said in that same tweet, and you're like, okay, maybe she has a bit of a point. Maybe there's some there. So anyway, they're trying to make her sound like some radical extremist. MS Now has been talking about this all day. Now, one of them has actually talked about why she said that. They just talk about that she said that one thing. They don't talk about anything else she said. They don't talk about the rest of the tweet and how it talks about, the genocide and stuff. So, got some comments here. Crystal Jackson. I think they've there, right? We act like, and it's not like all of this stuff has just been washed away, and that Native Americans no longer are victims of prejudice and stuff, including, by the way, the SAVE Act, which wouldn't allow their Native American, their what do they call them, reservation IDs or whatever, like those wouldn't be counted. Couldn't register to vote with those. There was a Kennedy on the first vote. Was it really? That's interesting. John Carver is like related to me. I'm related to John Carver, who was the governor at the time. So that's kind of interesting, according to my ancestry.com. Are you a racist? No, I am not a racist. Oh, this sounds like new microphone is not right. Okay, let me do this. Is that better? I was trying a different microphone. I was hoping that would solve the problem, but apparently it created a new one. Let me go to settings. Okay. Okay, it looks like, yeah. At least it's. Is that better, Winter? How you doing today, Winter? I don't know what to do about the sound stuff. Okay, so it is better now. All right. So anyway, there's that whole Wisconsin governor thing, and I really don't know what else to say about that. Like it's like they and then there's this there's some podcaster whose name I can't even remember that said some extreme stuff about 9/11 and interviewed El Sayed, and so now El Sayed needs to disclaim him or something like that, even though like the guy has walked back the extreme stuff he said and El Sayed never endorsed it or anything. Meanwhile, it's like Nick Fuentes, anybody that's ever had any connection with Nick Fuentes isn't being asked to disavow Nick Fuentes, who's a self-proclaimed Nazi. So Hey, this is a topic I know about. Hi, kitties. Are you talking about the whole Native American thing, or how's it going, kitty? So I can't remember the name of the podcaster, but Joe Scarborough is going on about this. Hey, you sat down and had lunch with Joe with Donald Trump, Joe. Anyway, I just think that there's like MS Now, who is supposed to be the liberal network, is like leaning too hard into the division between the progressives and the centrist Democrats. Because I don't actually see that much on Twitter. I see a couple of people that maybe carry that torch a little bit, but for the most part, like people on social media, like Blue Sky and Twitter and stuff, they're not all aggressive against one another. They're just like, they fight for their candidate and then they're just going to vote for whoever wins. I wish MS Now would back up on all that kind of nonsense. It's like, I know you need ratings, but I don't know if that's the way to get them. Makes me want to stop watching. So, all right. Oh, the sociopath thing. So, yeah. So let's talk about this next. Is Donald Trump a sociopath? That's the topic for today's show. Well, Mike says, give us good Democrats candidates. Well, there are good Democrat candidates. El Sayed is a really good candidate. I don't know if you've actually paid attention to what El Sayed says and does, but this is a guy, he's an American. He was born in America, born in Detroit. He's not a foreigner. You see all these people calling him a foreigner. He's not a foreigner. He's an American citizen. He's eligible to run for president. His mom was an American citizen. He wasn't like like a anchor baby either. His dad's from Egypt. He has 2 PhDs, including a doctorate from Oxford. So he's not exactly stupid. He's had an actual real person career. He's not like a billionaire. Fox is trying to act like he's pretending to be a working man. He is a working man. Like, he actually is a working man. I know that you're so used to pretending that Donald Trump is a working man that you don't know what one looks like anymore. But El Sayed is a working man. He's not DSA. He says he's not DSA. He identifies as a capitalist, but he says capitalism needs to be regulated, which I think is something most of us agree with. He believes in Medicare. Like, he thinks we need Medicare for all. And he says, while we have Medicare for all, he doesn't prohibit private insurance also. Like, he just thinks that anybody that wants Medicare should get it. That's it. Maybe you should say Medicare for anyone who wants it. What's wrong with El Sayed other than he's a Muslim? Didn't see people like screaming that the same people that scream El Sayed is a Muslim weren't screaming about Dr. Oz being a Muslim. I wonder what the difference is. People spend every waking second screaming about Trump. Yes, I can't shut them up. They keep telling me how he's the greatest president of all time. All right, then shut up about him. If you don't know anything about El Sayed, and it's ELSAED, SAED. Anyway, so pretty much what you're doing, he sounds based on what? Your ignorance? I'm not an American. Your 2 parties don't give the people what they want, even Democrats. I agree. Democrats are right of center. Mandami and El Sayed offer a new way forward. And I think that's the attraction. Or this Jessica Huang, who's running for governor in Minnesota. There's a lot of stuff going on. But let's go on to Trump, since Mike is obviously a big fan and loves mushrooms. Let's talk about Trump a little bit. So what happened is, when he was flying out of Turkey, and remember the whole thing with the plane and how they had to switch the plane because his illegal emoluments plane wasn't safe enough, so they had to switch him over to the old Air Force One. And then he got all angry about everybody knowing about that. And so, but he like lied and said it was because he just wanted to bring it so people could enjoy it one last time or whatever, some kind of nonsense. So it turns out that there was an actual threat on his life, and they smuggled him out of the back of the plane onto this catering truck. And then they smuggled him to a different plane, and he flew on a different plane, and they let all the journalists that were covering him stay on the plane that had been threatened. That was a credible enough threat that they pulled Donald Trump off of it, but they still let the journalists fly on it. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was one of those journalists, I would be pissed as hell. And I don't think that Obama or Biden or Clinton or even Bush would have said, well, if they die, too bad, or whatever. Why didn't Trump say, maybe we should warn those journalists? Maybe we shouldn't let them die. But he probably thinks it's a great thing if they get to die in service of the great and wonderful, almighty, powerful, orange God, Donald Trump. He's a sociopath. He does not care if other people live or die. He threatens to wipe out entire civilizations as though it's just fun. Okay, so Mike says he's not a fan of Trump. All right. Did you see Trump? Yeah, so Trump is sending ICE to Minnesota to monitor the elections, which means to... there's a lot of talk about, and there seems to be a lot of credibility in it, that this is all set up for losing in November, because he knows he's going to lose in November. Everybody knows the House is gone. Do you condemn USA kill millions of Muslims and Arabs? Yes, I do. I condemned it when Bush did it. I condemned it when Obama did it. I condemned it when Trump did it. Yes, I absolutely condemn it. Trump is not a president. He's not a deep... No, I'm not going to get into anti-Semitic crap. I don't like anti-Semitism, and I don't like Islamophobia, and I don't think I have to choose between the two. Using reporters as decoys, that should be the last White House correspondents' dinner. I mean, I hope some of these reporters come out. That is so vile to me, that he would be so nonchalant about other people's lives. Why weren't they offered the same protection as Donald Trump? They knew that threat was big enough to take Trump off of it. Like, you can say, well, it wasn't really a serious threat. It was serious enough that Donald Trump didn't fly on that plane, but they still let the reporters fly on it. That, like, if you don't have a problem with that, don't ever call yourself pro-life again. Did you see the Trump administration made the top 4 CEOs of the tech industry one position under a general in our military? They never served a day in service. MAGA, say what you want. I don't know what that's about. Hang on, let me see if I can look this up real quick. If you're thinking of the unusual story about tech executives being given military positions, that really happened. In June of 2025, the U.S. created Detachment 201 Executive Innovations Corps and directly commissioned 4 senior tech executives as lieutenant colonels in the Army Reserve. Shane Secker, CTO of Palantir, Andrew Bosworth, CTO of Meta, Kevin Wild, Chief Product Officer of OpenAI, and Bob McGew, former OpenAI Chief Research Officer, now advisor at Thinking Labs Machines. The Army described them as part-time Army Reserves officer and senior advisors working on technology innovation, recruiting tech talent, and military modernization. The striking part is the rank. They weren't brought in as civilian consultants. They were directly commissioned as 05 lieutenant colonels, despite not having even spent the roughly 2 decades at a normal career officer might take to reach that rank. Direct commissioning itself isn't unprecedented. The military uses it for specialized expertise such as medicine, law, and cyber, but applying it this way to extremely, when I was in, I was medical, and there were some doctors that had like 20 years experience that would be, or that they were, I think they were staff, meaning they had finished their residency, and then they could be they could be brought in directly as captains, which is 2 full ranks below lieutenant colonel. Wow, so that's pretty striking. I had not heard about that. The last part is also where the potential conflict of interest issues becomes interesting, particularly with Plantner and other tech companies doing substantial business with the Pentagon. And this is something I'd want to look at a little more, but like with Mussolini and fascism, his view of fascism was that, like even the word fascism, it comes from the word fasca, which means like a bundle of sticks. And the sticks were the corporations and the government kind of working together. And in that context, he called them corporatism. There's some misunderstanding of what that means exactly. But this really is, when people are like, do you even know what fascism means? Yes, do you? If you did, you wouldn't be asking me if I really knew. This is fascism. I had not heard about that. Thanks, Brad, for bringing it to my attention. He has active... So, Kitty, just so you know, is got a PhD in what is psychology or psychology or psychiatry or something. Anyway, she's... And if I'm not mistaken, it might be more than one PhD. Anyway, Kitty's a smart woman. So she's not just, spouting off here. That's what she says when she says, I know something about this. She actually does. He has active psychosis. He is also a psychopath. So what is the difference between a psychopath and a sociopath? Your old link still works, so if you want to pop on and talk about this, feel free. I would love to hear what you have to say. I'll try and remember to not talk over you. I seen Fox say the journalists were at fault as they pointed out the aircraft was susceptible to attack. All these journalists should sue the government. They're saying the journalists were at fault. The ones that broke open the story? Why? What is that fault? I thought the Pentagon Papers put this baby to bed. Trump is too egotistical. I think that is a given. Trump's ego is like, if anybody ever loves you as much as Donald Trump loves Donald Trump, then you are truly loved. He then could have died and live happily and unincarcerated without acting as president. Who could have? I don't know how you die and then live happily. The first thing Trump did this time around was purge the military. What will the military do? Will they abide by their oath? That's the question. And it brings to light that they tried to prosecute senators and members of the House of Representatives for pointing out the law says that it's illegal to obey an unlawful order. Accurately. They just read the DOJ, the what it says in the UCMJ. Did anyone catch the weekend story about his golf trip to New Jersey? Surface to air missiles on the golf course? I did not read about that. AWACS airplanes and F-16 fighter cover just to play golf. How many millions of dollars did that cost? When you first became afflicted with mental retardation. So you ask me this question and you can't even ask it grammatically correct? Story on Yahoo News. Guess the largest private owner of farmland in the United States is Bill Gates. Interesting. I don't think it's hyperbole to say Trump is following Putin's MO, which is based on Hitler's. Trump's friends literally invaded Greenland last week. Yes, this was a story that was on Rachel Maddow last night. So what happened is this oil company goes into Greenland saying that they have permission to drill. And Greenland's like, no, you don't. And so there's all this to do about whether or not they have permission to drill, and they're unloading all their drilling equipment. And Greenland's like, no, you're not drilling here. If we have to bring in the police and the Danish military, you're not drilling here. And they're just going on and proceeding as though they have permission to drill there. Is Donald Trump just, and this is obviously this oil company is connected to Donald Trump. So is he just telling people to just go into other countries and just steal their resources? So let me see. There's an update on that. And the funny thing is Dr. Phil is like connected to all this. And Dr. Phil is the one that told Rachel Maddow about this story, thinking that somehow Rachel Maddow was going to take the oil company's side in this. A newly formed Texas company called Greenland Energy Company is trying to explore for oil in Greenland's remote Jameson land region. The company says the area could contain extraordinarily valuable petroleum resources. Its executives have floated a figure as high as $1 trillion, though that is the company's estimate, not a proven reserve valuation. The immediate controversy is that the company actually moved drilling equipment ashore in Greenland without getting the required approval from Greenlandic authorities first. Greenland's Department of Business and Mineral Resources responded with a strong warning and said that future logistical operations have to receive advance authorization. And there's more to it. Greenland stopped issuing new oil exploration licenses in 2021, largely for environmental reasons. However, British mining exploring company 80 Mile retained older exploration rights in Jameson land. Greenland Energy is seeking a majority stake in that project and financing the exploration. Greenland Energy says it wants to drill an exploratory well as early as October 2026, but it acknowledges that additional government approvals are still required. The company was established only recently and has connections to people in Trump's political social orbit. Its chairman is Larry Sweats. Its board includes Carol Craig and Dr. Phil McGraw. Dr. Phil has been involved in promoting a documentary about the project. Greenland Energy insists the project is not connected to Trump's cabinet. Oh, of course, nobody we just have to accept everything that anybody says about Trump not being corrupt. Trust me, bro. To gain control of Greenland, there's currently no evidence I've found establishing that Trump ordered or coordinated the company's actions. So then you can't really separate the optics from what Trump has been saying about Greenland. So anyway, make of that what you will. Is Trump invading Greenland just by having this oil company go in and just drill for oil? Apparently, there's no, proven connection between them. but it's kind of hard to just overlook the coincidence that this oil company that's connected to Trump is just going into Greenland and deciding they're going to start drilling for oil. So Kitty says active psychosis, mostly delusions and hallucinations. Well, he has delusions. I wonder if he has delusions. And how do you define delusions? Like, and does he really believe some of the like more insane things he says, or is he just the boundary between reality and his made up stuff? Like he doesn't even know when he's making stuff up anymore. Has that just been removed from years and years of lying and Adderall? And so now he's just no longer able to distinguish between reality and his lies. Does that count as delusions, Kitty? Psychopath, genetic, sociopath. Oh, psychopath is genetic. Sociopath is environmental. Is that right, Kitty? That makes sense. Iran has sent multiple hit teams to assassinate Trump. Yeah, well, Iran has actually assassinated the leaders in Iran. This is one of those things where, I'm not saying it's okay to assassinate Trump. I'm just saying when you go around assassinating other foreign leaders, their countries might try assassinating you. That's just a reality of the universe. That was just an Iranian soccer team. If the plane where he should have been on was attacked, he could have taken the opportunity to go to Argentina. Nobody bothering him with lawsuits. Oh, because we think, oh, right. Could have just gone to Argentina like Hitler did. Or allegedly. People out here thinking that they are going to villain monologue at you. It's set up for them to be arrested. And Trump can claim, it's set up for them to be arrested and Trump can claim Americans are being victimized by foreigners. Follows terrorists and more threats, maybe even putting troops to protect them. For who to be arrested? The journalists that broke the story? I don't know who you're saying is going to be arrested. I guess Trump is one of the few dumb enough to do it. But Dr. Phil is smart enough to deny it. I think Oprah Winfrey owes the world an apology. Like, she brought us Dr. Phil. She brought us Dr. Oz. I mean, maybe her taste in people isn't as good as we thought it was. He will never do that. Trump is done. Putin and Hitler both used these tactics with great success. I think Greenland is the folks who decide if it's an invasion. Yeah. I mean, that they thought they could just go there and start drilling. Like, don't we need paperwork? Do we really know what is in the containers they left there? I don't know if they left containers there. Kelly, long time no see. Hey Mo, I was here yesterday, but didn't see you. Sorry, getting a little congestion right now. So today we're just talking about whether or not Donald Trump is a sociopath. Whether, like just letting reporters get killed. Like, what would you do if you were one of those reporters? How pissed would you be if you were one of those reporters? You get off the plane, then like 2 weeks later, you find out that plane was a decoy and that you could have been like bombed out of the sky and nobody even told you, like the U.S. government knew this and took precautions to secure Trump, but let you fly on that plane anyway? That is insane. That is insane. Sleepy Trump. Yeah, Trump probably did sleep the whole time. Oprah is another example of why neoliberal identity politics isn't going to save us. I don't even know what neoliberal means, to be honest. I don't quite get, like, it's just, what is it seems like it's just one. Neoliberalism is an economic political philosophy that puts a lot of faith in markets and private enterprise and generally wants government to play a smaller role in directly managing the economy. Okay, so I'm definitely not a neoliberal. I think that maybe people, not saying you, the people that use the word neoliberal tend to, I think it means something to do with liberal, but it seems to be the liberal is more about economic liberal than. Anyway, I definitely believe in regulated capitalism. So, not sure what they became is what Oprah intended. They were probably corrupted. There's always that. But there's also always the possibility that they always were what they were, and she didn't really know. He's saying the company Greenland Energy, which operates out of Texas, is being used to start an international incident. So with the Greenland government, so he can invade militarily. I didn't say that. I think that there is a real possibility that Donald Trump is just using this. Yes, I think it's a possibility. I'm not saying for sure that's what happened. I'm saying that company felt free to go into another country and unload equipment to go drill oil when they didn't have permission to do it. Why do you think that they felt secure to do that? Greenland put trucks on your runway. Tucker Carlson says MAGA is over. Wait, did Tucker sound? Hang on. It's funny that this civil war that's going on. Oh, he said it almost exactly that explicitly. In a June 24 interview with Sky News, Tucker Carlson was asked about the future of the MAGA movement. He laughed and replied, "The future of the MAGA? Well, that's over. There's no future of the MAGA movement, obviously. We're done." I think, well, at least he's honest about that. Finally, Tucker Carlson finally said something true, and I didn't hear about it. But so Candace Owens, she's on the outs. Tucker Carlson is on the outs. Ben Shapiro's like crashing and burning, apparently. And they're all like fighting each other over, whether or not Charlie Kirk was assassinated by Netanyahu or whatever. I don't know. The right wing conspiracies against the left wing are hard enough to keep up with. When they start getting into each other, I just don't even have the time. I would say Trump has every predisposition to be a psychopath. Tucker still walks with hate in his pocket. Tucker is over. Still walks with hate in his pocket. So are you pro-MAGA or anti-MAGA, Ripley? Tucker is over, but doesn't mean MAGA's not. Well, he hasn't been a Fox News host in a while. It's almost used to the point of nothing. What is almost used to the point of nothing? Trump's psychology is unique, and now he has formed a cult, it bewilders me. I do not understand the attraction to Trump. I really don't. The man is physically unattractive. Like he is there's nothing that you go, well, that's a good looking man. Like, and I'm straight. I don't like walk around checking out men. But I look at Barack Obama. Barack Obama's a good looking man. I'm not going to lie. He's a good looking guy. I mean, if I went through life looking like Barack Obama, I'd feel pretty good about myself. Instead, I got stuck with this face. But I'm better looking than Donald Trump. And that's not a brag. He's not that smart. And I mean that in the kindest possible way. But I'm not just talking about like his opinions aren't that smart. I'm talking about his whole way of discussing things. He's not very articulate. He's got like 11 words he uses, and he just changes the order in which he uses them over and over again. He doesn't learn anything. Like there's never, like when he goes through and he starts citing facts, he's making them up as he goes along. I mean, he never learns them. He never actually articulates real things. He just makes up stuff like the bottle of soda, you know. He's talking about the vaccines, and he's like, yeah, they pour like vaccines that are like the size of a bottle of soda into the children. And it's like 0.5 milliliter is not a bottle of soda, dude. It's not. I looked it up. It would take 1,178 shots to fill up a 20-ounce soda bottle. So yeah, they're not pouring bottles of soda into the infants. And it's not the first time he cited that. And so, you know, like he doesn't learn, he doesn't get corrected and then learn and then say the right thing the next time. He's not able to learn things. He's not very bright. He is dumber than a box of rocks. Like, I'm not saying that as a insult. I'm saying that as an honest observation. He does not learn things. If you ever print off a speech of his and try to read it out loud, it's gibberish. He calls it word salad, and it's just nonsense. It's rambling. I don't get the appeal. I do not understand why anybody would like Donald Trump at all. I do not see one positive thing about Donald Trump. And that's not an insult. That's an observation. I do not see it. If you like Donald Trump and you could tell me one thing that's really true about him, other than he hates people as much as you do. Oh, well, what about immigrants? Okay, so he hates immigrants and you hate immigrants, so you think that's a positive thing. I don't. Have you been following the Noah Wells case down in Mississippi? This is turning into a Law and Order SVU thing. Is Noah Wells the guy that was left on the island? Is that what you're thinking of? Oh, Nolan Wells. Oh, Nolan Wells. Okay, hang on. Is he the? Yeah, he's the college student that all the white kids left him, and they took his phone, and then he like died, and now everybody's going, what, you know? He just died. You know, what do you mean? So anyway, yeah, a bunch of white kids abandoning a black kid on an island in Mississippi and taking his phone away. Well, he said he wanted to stay there. Well, okay, why didn't you give him his phone then? So I've been sort of watching it, but I haven't been following it. Hiya, Harry. Um, yeah, deregulation of capital and having a token POC person to hide behind, like Turning Point, is the current state of most affairs. Tucker definitely did, despite feeding MAGA. It is because Putin is big mad with Trump, so his talking heads are anti-Trump at the moment. There's this whole thing with Kash Patel is going to Russia for some reason. I don't know why the director of the FBI needs to go to Russia. I've never heard of that before. FBI is supposed to operate domestically. I haven't heard anybody explain why he needs to go to Russia. And now Russia's sitting there voicing that they might have dirt on the Democrats for the next election or something. MT Green, can't forget her. Yeah, so she got, and I give her credit. She at least stuck to her guns with the pedophile thing. She was one of the few that would do that, and the ones that did got chased out of the Republican Party because they chose pedophiles over victims because Donald Trump wanted them to. Why Donald Trump wanted them to, that's up to you. I'm not going to say he's a pedophile. I'm just not going to deny he's a pedophile. That's the basis Tucker is building for his alternative for MAGA. Both parties. Why do both parties need to be banned, Adam? Thanks. I maybe was unclear. They were exhausting older drilling licenses. There were existing other, but were not properly rescinded because compensation was not paid. Like Trump administration had to pay for canceled wind projects. That's not what chat said. There was another company that had some grandfathered stuff in there, but they didn't have the permission. I get you. I mean, I'm just saying Greenland's position is not what your position is, Jeremy. And so it sounds like you might be regurgitating something right-wing news told you. I got you, and I think you are still on target. I guess Melania is just counting the days. Must be good prenup. You're bleeping Brad Pitt compared to Donald Trump. Hey, Mark, how's it going? Good afternoon, Kelly. How are you, sir? Haven't seen you in a while. Are you talking about the fat fool who lives at the White House and told people once they should drink bleach during COVID? Yes, we are. And whether or not he is a sociopath for letting this plane fly, knowing that an Iranian missile could just knock it out of the sky with reporters on it. Like, if you were one of those reporters, what would your reaction be? That Donald Trump was just willing to let you die and not even tell you that there was a threat. On January 20th, 2029, those divorce papers will be filed on the courthouse desk. Brad Pitt says he's back to drinking. I didn't know that Brad Pitt ever had a drinking issue or ever stopped drinking. I pay very, very little attention to Brad Pitt. I'll pay you $100 if you smoke crack on the stream. I'm not going to smoke crack on the stream. So forcing more and more doctor office visits. Is this have you been here before, Dean, and made the same stupid comment? So forcing more and more doctor office visits, time and expenses, taken out of school, loss of combined strength. What a fool. Oh, so you're talking about, the new vaccine requirements, changing the vaccine requirements. Every single doctor that has any knowledge of this is
just beside themselves. Trying to remember. So the guy, Andrew Wakefield, is the guy that came up with the whole thing. Like the whole vaccine cause autism link was all based on this one paper that Andrew Wakefield got published, who is a British physician. Okay. And these are the issues with the whole thing. First of all, there were only 12 children that were part of, the report. There was no control group. The children weren't a representative random sample. The reliance on parental recollections about when behavioral symptoms appeared relative to vaccination. Some of these kids actually had autism before they got vaccinated. Actually, they probably all did, but some of them were already symptomatic before they got it. And then he was being paid by somebody that was suing the vaccine companies to come up with this study. So this study that RFK Jr. wants to base our entire policy on was just totally bunk, totally garbage. And he said that vaccine caused autism. Some of the kids had autism before they got vaccinated. So apparently it works both ways in the space-time continuum. Neither party has any. Neither party is a single entity. Generalization fallacies to me are just not even worth my time. Does anyone here know who Scott Linedecker is? If not, I suggest you find out. The midterms will depend on voters being informed. Is he who I think he is? The election official associated with Dominion voting systems. And Liberty Vote. Does he have something to do with the current elections? He's running election technology companies, not serving. He bought Dominion voting systems and renamed it Liberty Vote. So what do you think that he's going to do? Donald Trump has his own race known as the Orange. I think they're called the Oompa Loompas. I got called a racist one time because I said that Donald Trump is orange. I made a joke about how orange cats are smarter than orange people, and I got called a racist. I enjoy your intelligence and your intellect, but the topic of Donald Trump is ridiculous. I respectfully say he's just a 300-pound puppy being used by people who financed him. Well, he's still willing to let people die. He still talks about killing Iranian people with all the gravitas of sociopaths. Height is the number one male attractive thing, and Trump is tall. Trump manages to do 2-hour coherent live on TV cabinet meetings. Seems to ramble less than you, LOL. Okay, first of all, he can't even stay awake for the entire cabinet meeting. Secondly, Tom Cruise is 5'3" and he's a sex symbol. Being tall doesn't mean you're attractive. The man's face looks like it got caught in a waffle iron. We have an FBI director who seems to travel an awful lot. I still remember the trip to the Winter Olympics. On a bit of sad note, I heard last night that Joe Biden's cancer has gotten worse and that he is in serious pain. I think bone cancer was mentioned. Yeah, I'm really, I just, you just know if he dies that Donald Trump is going to have some seriously odious tweet about it. Joe Biden was a good president. I know people don't like to hear this. Joe Biden did a lot of good things as president. He did a lot of good things. He's saved our country from Trump 1. I don't know if anybody can save it from Trump 2. Thoughts and prayers for Joe Biden. I did hear as well about he is in serious pain and the cancer is spreading. Do you remember Donald Trump is a convicted felon on 24? It's actually 36 counts, and was ordered to pay millions of dollars to 2 women for sexual impropriety. The white rich kids do this poop to poor white kids so damn often too. It's really an inequality of justice when there's money kept from races intentionally. Hi, Chris. How you doing today? Funny how Republicans always say both parties are bad when it's convenient for them. Yeah, that's like when they're losing when they're conceding that the Republicans do a terrible thing, then they're saying, well, both sides do it. If they're not conceding it, only Democrats do it. They never can just say that Republicans did a bad thing and that is bad and just leave it at that. Like they have to quantify it somehow to make it like somehow less bad because the other side does it. Harry, you're welcome. I probably didn't need to remind you, but it's worth mentioning. I really have little respect for activist judge rulings. I really have little respect for what you have respect for. Like when you say activist judges, like you mean judges that actually go by the law regardless of what Donald Trump says. Like activist judge, what is an activist judge, Jeremy? What is the difference between an activist judge and a regular judge? What makes the judge activist? It's just rhetoric. It's all it is. You're not saying anything. Sadly, there are a lot of good conservatives whose voices are drowned out by the MAGA Republicans. I'm a conservative, but not a MAGA. Yeah, I think there are a lot of people like that. I think I've noticed that a lot of conservatives now refer to themselves as conservatives and not Republicans because they've kind of left the Republican Party because they don't want to be identified with Trump and MAGA. I am absolutely not ashamed of who I am, but I was once part of the political machine and I supported men in office. But Donald Trump is nothing more than a puppet for the power brokers of the U.S. The whole autism thing really annoys me as a member of my family has severe autism. And this whole witch hunt about autism is really, really stupid, and someone needs to put a stop on it, for goodness sake. My brother, his job is he helps take care of adults with autism that, you know, like that live on their own. Well, don't live on their own. There's a house for adults with autism that, you know, like they're able to live outside of their parents' house, and they live together and they have this home, and then he kind of takes care of them and make sure they don't burn down the house and stuff like that. So remember that guy that, I don't know if you remember this, back in, I think it was 2020. There was the guy that got shot because the autistic guy was freaking out and the police were threatening him and he was freaking out, and so then the guy that was taking care of him was like killed. And I was just really sad about that because it could have been my brother. We're not going back to the whole voting machine thing, are we? I hope. I mean, like, I'm just so tired of stupid conspiracy theories. get a and not everybody uses the same voting machines. Not every state has the same laws. No voting machines are like connected to the internet. They're all air gapped. You'd have to like, do you know how many, like tens of thousands of voting machines you would have to hack independently in order to rig the election? Because autism is a spectrum disorder. There are multiple factors that go together to cause symptoms: genetic, gut bacteria, microplastics, environmental, etc. Right. And we don't even really understand everything about it. I think that you know, if you start getting into the microbiome and some of the science there, this is a relatively new field of science, but there's something called the microbiome, which is like there is a whole colony, I guess, of organisms, microorganisms that live inside you. That's called your microbiome, and you actually have about half this. You know, for every cell in your body, there is a cell that is part of your microbiome, and this is as much a part of you as any organ. In fact, they even have recently discovered that your appendix, you know, that's supposed to be like this thing that's no longer needed. They found out what it does. It holds like a backup copy of your microbiome, of all the different organisms in your microbiome, so that if something happens to where your microbiome gets wiped out and all those, you know, little organisms inside you like can't function anymore, then you got a backup. It's like a backup hard drive for your computer, or like the, you know, your reset button. Like if your computer goes really south and you can just like reformat it as the original, that's what your appendix does. It holds it holds a sample of your microbiome, and your microbiome is like these are organisms that help you digest your food when the food comes down. They break apart the different things into their vitamins and send them to where they're supposed to go and stuff like that. It's really pretty incredible just how important that is. So it's like when you talk about probiotics, a lot of that is what, you know, this does. So there's something there that's called the gut-brain axis, to where if you can think of like your body as a train station, your microbiome is like a train station. And so then the train comes into your train station, and the microbiotics or the probiotics, they break apart all the food and they send all the different nutrition stuff to where it's supposed to go. And then you've got these different axes. Like there's a gut-brain axis, there's a gut-immune axis. There, you know, so if you think of each of these axes as like a different line to a different part of your body, then that's like the train rails, right? And so there is real research into this, real credible research, that part of the issues with autism can be the microbiome is damaged and the gut-brain axis is damaged. So what Jeremy is saying is right. That like the gut bacteria has a lot to do with, or might have a lot to do with autism. There hasn't been enough research on it done, but early research is indicating that there is definitely that possibility. Trump said he would euthanize autistic people. I wouldn't be surprised if he did, but I haven't heard him say that. There are men and women in politics and business who use things like autism and vaccines for their platform. You have to look behind the scenes to understand what's being presented. Yeah. In 1965, I was given a polio vaccine in the classroom with all the boys and girls, and some people were complaining about this then. Maybe someday we'll learn. Boy, I think they might have complained more if they got polio. Tylenol is the source of all our problems. That's why they call it, that's puts the all in Tylenol. I think why autism is on the rise is that the tech that allows detection even on the lower ends of the spectrum keeps improving. I think there's some of that. I think that, like, if you think, like, I honestly think it has a lot to do with how we eat. I don't think it's so much the genetically modified foods, but like, when you start getting into like the gut science of things and how much it affects your brain, like, it really, really affects your brain. And so I don't want to go on a sidetrack, but like, including things like processed flour that takes out all the actual nutrition out of flour, and it's one of the main things that we eat. I cannot tell you how much, I mean, I have told you, but just switching to fresh milled flour, to milling my own flour, has made an enormous difference in my health, including my mental clarity. If it goes to show they are too old. Joe Biden is a great human being beyond being president. Joe Biden is one of the most influential politicians of the last century, since FDR. Like, there's LBJ, and Joe Biden is up there. He, like, when you look at his record as a legislator and president, virtually every major piece of legislation over the last 60 years has had something to do with Joe Biden. I mean, like the ACA, the Police Reform Act, when, there was some bad stuff in there, but so was the Brady Bill. Like, that was a compromise, and then some of the stuff got abused by it later. But it was consequential in terms of driving down crime rates. The crime rates that are going down started going down in the 90s, thanks to the crime bill that Joe Biden helped get passed. And yes, there is the over incarceration that came as a result of that, but that was, I don't want to go anyway. I just feel like we pay so much attention to the negative aspects of that we don't realize there were also positive aspects of that. More women have accused Trump of rape than there are trans athletes. Oh, thank you. I wanted to mention this too. So Royce White and Enes Kanter have decided they're going to declare for the WNBA draft, as though that's some sort of gotcha. And I posted about this on Twitter. But first of all, there are no trans women in the NBA or in the WNBA. There's no trans women in the WNBA. There is one person who is transgender, but they were born female at birth and identify as non-binary. It's not a person who is assigned male at birth and then is a trans woman. And so that's the only, there is one athlete in the WNBA that is trans, but they are not a trans woman. There aren't any trans athletes. There's no basketball players in college basketball that are trans. There are actually now no athletes at all in college that are trans. Last year, in 2024, there were maybe about 10. There's not an exact count, but maybe about 10 out of over 500,000 athletes in the entire WNBA who were trans. None of them played basketball. In the history of the NCAA, only one trans woman has ever played basketball, and that was a woman in 2013. I can't think of her name at the moment, but she played at a mission college, a community college, and she was 50 years old and had been going through the hormone therapy for 5 years. That's the entire history. Oh, and there's one trans woman that's 34 years old who plays professional basketball in the second league in France. That's the only professional women's basketball player who is trans. So it's not like there is this huge, overwhelming question of, oh, all these trans women taking over the WNBA or something. But Royce White and Enos Kanter decided that they were going to make a mockery of trans people by declaring that they're women and declaring for the WNBA draft. And I think the answer to that is simple. Just don't draft them. Problem solved. Thomas is an Thomas is an activist judge. The ones who set aside the Constitution for their opinion, those are the activist judges. There isn't activist judges. There are judges with different philosophies and interpretations of the law. That is, if you don't have your politicians appoint your judges, you wouldn't have, Welcome to America, Harry. Sorry. In England, maybe you don't have activist judges, but in America, we have activist judges. They're named Clarence Thomas and Justice Alito and Brett, I like beer Kavanaugh. Voters should also look into Thomas Hicks, former commissioner fired by Trump Elections Assistance Commission. This is the nonpartisan government agency responsible for certifying voting machines. All right, I'm going to do this. If you want to come back tomorrow, Carp, I'm going to do some research on all of this voting machine stuff, and we can talk about that tomorrow. I just want to make sure that I'm accurate in what I talk about. Judiciary, it is common sense. All of Europe does it. We can't, America. I first met Joe Biden a little more than 40 years ago when I was involved in government work with bridge and tunnel constructions, aquifers, and so on, who was a very good man. That still is. This is the one thing about Joe Biden that I was really impressed with. If you may not know this, but he did not become a millionaire. His net worth did not eclipse $1 million until after he had been vice president for 8 years. Like all his time in the Senate and everything, he never was worth more than $1 million. You want to know somebody's not corrupt? Have them be in the serving Congress for 40 years and not be a millionaire. Voting machines are a local county affair. Yeah, I mean, this is like if the Democrats tried to federalize elections, you cannot even imagine how much screaming there would be from the right. I hate that we are identifying people as Republicans or Democrats. I am a fracking human being and constituent, and you people are my fellow humans. Fornicate the whole team BS. I voted for People Party. It would be nice if we could vote for people and issues instead of parties. We consider activist judges those who put agenda before justice. Okay, what does that mean? You're just changing the words you use. You're not making a cogent thought. When you say they're putting agenda for justice, what agenda are they putting before what justice? Those who punished, released. You mean like Donald Trump pardoning the January 6th insurrectionists? Those who should be released sitting in prison? Who should be released who's sitting in prison? And what activist judge are you referring to? I probably would be in a shared home if I wasn't with my parents. I'd probably be deemed a level 2. Autism doesn't deserve to be center stage like a debate, just included in healthcare. I hate that so many things get politicized so that we don't talk about the things, the actual politics of things. Like, and you notice all these people that talk about autism and vaccines don't give a shit about autism outside of the vaccines. Now, when it comes to their national certification, it's not a local certification. There's no such thing as national certification. I wish Joe Biden was the candidate in 2016 when he was in a fit state of mind and when he could have really done something without the constant pressure about his mental capacity and ability to. Those machines are operating in 27 swing states. Fill the office. Real judges follow the development of law over centuries, follow precedent, activists, judges. Okay, but what are you talking about? This is all just, so real judges follow the development of law over centuries. So then the people that, the majority opinion in Dobbs that denied the last 4 decades of law and decisions, were they activist judges? Trump's pederast. I don't know what a pederast means. Why couldn't you want the Epstein files to be released? Then you can prove Trump is innocent. Mega, why wouldn't you want the, yeah. It's funny that the people that say, oh, if Trump was in it, then Joe Biden would have released it, which is first of all nonsense, because that would assume that Joe Biden went through it to see if Trump was in it, and there's no evidence that ever happened. But we do know that under Trump's watch, the whole thing was scoured by all kinds of FBI agents. So if Trump's not in it, why aren't they releasing it? I've read the new certification requirements. The templates for testing are available. I don't dabble in conspiracy theories. I do the actual research. That set me apart. I find the information myself. I'm not sure what you're talking about with certification requirements. I'll look into it and see what, but as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I'm aware, there's no national certification requirements for voting machines. I think it's 100% local. Like, to my knowledge, federal elections are federal. Like the executive branch has absolutely no authority at all over local elections or any elections. Makes sense on how appendix gets infected. Our bodies are well-engineered machines, but when one aspect gets unbalanced, it throws it off. Yep. And so that's like, here's one of the, like, this is another thing that's amazing about the whole microbiome thing is the breast milk has a hormone in it, HGH hormone, which does the baby no good at all. It is there simply to feed the microbiome. So, like, we have evolved along with the microbiome. Like, it's part of our system. Evolution. Like, we actually evolved with a microbiome. That's just fascinating to me. Both that and the existence of the appendix just show that we have evolved that way. And so we ate certain ways, right? We fermented foods for thousands of years. And those fermented foods provided us with probiotics. And the probiotics that you get in food are on a whole different level than like the kind you get in nutrition bottles, right? We spend all this money on food that has been processed, and then we have to actually spend a whole bunch of other money on supplements to replace the stuff that we should be getting in our food. So when you ferment food, you get like all the probiotics are just on a different level. Like if you ferment, get some kefir seeds, and just all you have to do is pour milk in it and let it sit out for 24 hours, and then filter out the seeds, and boom, you've got kefir. It's that hard to make kefir. If you can pour milk into a jar, then you can make your own kefir. And the kefir you make is A, it tastes better, and then B, it has like 1 trillion or something like microbiotics, and like the store-bought stuff is all regulated and stuff, so it only has so many. And then the other thing is like the capsules you take that have the microbiotics in it, they're not food, so your body doesn't absorb them the same way. They're not as it's called bioavailability. Your body actually absorbs the stuff in kefir and other fermented foods. And like, there's some absolutely easy, yummy things you can do with fermenting. There's two ways to ferment. You can do aerobic or anaerobic. It ferments. And, you know, with one thing you can do is just take a jar of grapes, put grapes in a jar, and then you just put a coffee filter on it and take like a ball jar, and then you put the band over the coffee filter, and you just let it sit out there for 24, 48 hours. And just taste a grape every now and then. And then after it starts to ferment, it will, you know, what fermenting does is it increases the acid level of the food so that it won't spoil. And this is how we lived with food for like thousands of years. But if you take a grape and you ferment it and don't crush it up or anything, you just eat a fermented grape. It's like if you were a kid and you had Pop Rocks, you get like this bubbly feeling in your mouth like Pop Rocks. They're delicious, and they do the, you get the little Pop Rock feeling in your mouth. They're fun to eat. They're like zippy. I ferment all kinds of berries and fruits. I make like cobbler. I'll split, I'll do it like a 50-50 ferment regular, so I get like a full range of flavor. If you had my cobbler, you would be like, Kelly, this is the best cobbler I have ever had in my life. I did not know cobbler could be this good. And it takes like 10 minutes to make. It's definitely, and then anaerobic is more like your traditional, probably what you're used to with like sauerkraut and stuff like that, where you know, put it in water and then you weigh it and usually use like a 1-2% solution of salt. And then you just let that sit for a couple of weeks. And, you know, like they've got these lids that let the gas out, so you don't even have to worry about burping it. Anyway, the more types of food you ferment, the more rich your microbiome becomes, and the better your gut health gets, and the healthier you are. It affects your brain, it affects your immune system, it affects all kinds of organ functions. It's definitely neurological autism. The reduced inflammation of a good microbiome helps people. It helps with inflammation a lot to have a healthy microbiome. Might be overlap without having connective tissue disorder associated with autism. There's no food my mom could have eaten to make me less autistic, as it's very obviously genetic. And then a lot of it is genetic. And that, you know, yes, people need to study autism before they start talking about it. But breast milk and the HGH, like that just feeds the microbiome. I'm not saying your mom did something wrong. Why do conservatives hate us autistic so much? I don't know. Kitty has diagnosed me with some kind of autism, I think. Or no, she says, she said I have ADHD. Autism is a genetic disorder. The most we can do is manage it and help these persons with the witch hunt needs to be put on stop. That isn't anything evil about autism to get a grip. People. Harry, do you have autism too? Are you autistic? I guess. Do you have autism? That sounds wrong. What is the correct way to say it? Are you autistic? I hate saying things like you're autistic because that makes it sound like, you know, like you are an autistic person, maybe. Like, I don't want to define somebody by their autism. Conservatism is a snake eating his tail. There is nothing but a twitching head. Dear Kelly, I learned as a boy when you get a good book of knowledge, the first thing you do is read the appendix. And then the book is treasured books. Folks with autism, we need to tell the truth as we see it. Just do the research. I think, you know, here's another question I have for you, Dusty. Is Rain Man good or bad for autism? The movie? It's like it brought a lot of attention to autism, but I think maybe it also gave a lot of people stereotypes about what autism means. Just do the research. I'm not trying to convince anyone. I'm past that. Mega has proven you can't teach a fart not to stink. Just look into it and then make it. Like I said, I'll look into it tonight and I'll talk about it tomorrow. I just don't like to talk about things that I'm not informed with, especially with things like this. Conservatism never changes. That's the point. That's kind of like what conservatism means, right? Like it's against change. Weird how nobody noticed till the Nazis started making a sting. If Joe ran in 16, he would have won, but he would have missed his last moments with Bo. He was profoundly deep family values man. I think the attack on Hunter impacted his performance in 24. And the whole Hunter Biden stole a painting or sold a painting stuff looks so ridiculous now. You've got Trump's kids making like billions and billions of dollars, but Hunter Biden sold a painting for $54,000. Nothing scares an incompetent man more than a competent female. Hey, that's a good line. I hate people, the operating system. I hate Apple, the operating system, for some reason likes to change your grammar after you press send. Apple is garbage. I just do not do anything on my phone that I don't have to do. I'm terrible. I have bulky, like I between my need for reading glasses and my fat thumbs, and I hate working on tiny things. I'd much rather do everything on my laptop. Thomas also had a poop ton of bribes. Yes. Oh, dang, Mario Kart. I remember the first round of debate with Trump and Biden. Trump publicly said, Biden, do you have any knowledge? And he mentioned the bill that was written, and Biden replied, I wrote it, you fool. It's our nature to always point out the negative. My stream folks, hopefully it thought out. Trump made more money since 2024 than the prior 60 years of his life combined, and more money in stocks than all of Congress combined. But he has no idea what's going on. He just got lucky. Any money that Donald Trump has been making are not really going to be his. He has to kick back most of it to those who financed his method operation. I was once part of this type of process. When will people learn that when politicians say, look over here, you should definitely be looking the other way? Kelly, I just said this to you once before. You might remember. I'm waiting for reverse engineering to happen like Mandela. Prisoner to president. Trump president to prisoner. We were almost there, and then he got elected. All we needed was a sentencing. She was in the news a couple of weeks ago, released 3-time violent offender on bail, killed again in less than 24 hours. We'll find the name. Who was in the news? I don't know who you're talking about. The evolution is quite the lady, and if you don't feed her right, your evolution doesn't go right. Yep. I mean, I'm just really, like, you start reading about this and start getting into the whole microbiome thing, and it's like all kinds of stuff. And just flavor wise, I feel like I enjoy food now much more. Like it's I say it's like going from 1080p to 4K. Like it or even 720 or 480i to 4K. Like, you remember the old way we used to watch TV? Maybe you don't. But back in the 90s, people, we had these old CRT TV sets, that not the HD ones. And when you transition to HD and you are just like, wow, it's different. That's the way that flavor is. People who are sitting in prisons for marijuana charges instead of community service or halfway homes. I agree there. I think we need to just completely, like, anybody that's in prison for non-violent marijuana charges should not be in prison. It's like we talk about Oh, we need to save money. We need to cut spending. Why can't we cut spending in the places where we don't need to spend it? Why do we have to like cut spending when it comes to like children eating? The future is here and we have screwed it up. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I don't even know. I'm glad I don't have kids. I'll just say that. Trump lowered pot to a Schedule 3 drug. Biden pardoned everyone in federal prison for marijuana charges, not narco terrorists who paid $1 million into this Bitcoin account. You had me at fermented. I mean, I know Trump did the Schedule 3 thing, like, but so what? He also kills people on the streets. I mean, because I agree with one thing he does doesn't mean I have to agree with everything he does. Persons in federal prison, those are smugglers and dealers. Well, they are now, but there were people in federal prisons that were just there for for possession. Far be it for me to ever agree with anything Trump says, but we nurses did notice an uptick in autism with the introduction of Tylenol. Yeah, but correlation isn't causation. And there's been many studies that have shown there's no connection between Tylenol and autism. I don't, but a member of my close family does have severe autism. And it really pisses me off that people like to make a thing of autism, especially when it is coming from the orange moron. Everyone loves Rain Man. It's a good movie. But I always wonder about stuff like that. That does it ultimately help or hurt the autistic community? How many things I do not understand? This is one of them. How could you release from prison the man who shot Ronald Reagan? He was released, and last thing I know, he was never in prison. He was in a mental institute. He pled insanity. Hinckley pled insanity, and he was in a mental institute, and he was released because he was no longer insane, I guess. A lot of states still put people in prison on marijuana charges, which I think is total BS. It's a damn plant. No one is in prison for usage. Okay, hang on. Let me... I'm asking chat. So since January 22, there hasn't been anyone because Joe Biden pardoned them. State prisons, there's 1.25 million people in state prisons, but there's no breakdown of how many of them are there for just pot. So there's no, I can't find a specific number of if anybody or how many are. The right wing thinks conservatism. Okay, hang on, let me. Okay. So Biden issued 2 broad marijuana pardon proclamations. He pardoned people who had committed or been convicted of simple marijuana possession under federal or DC law. The administration estimated roughly 6,500 federal convictions plus CD cases could benefit. In December 2023, he expanded the pardon to cover additional federal offenses involving simple possession, attempted simple possession, and marijuana use, including offenses on federal lands. So there were some, but there weren't. They're not there anymore. Oh, and they didn't. The pardon didn't just apply to people who are currently in prison. This was everybody that had been imprisoned. So people who had finished their sentences and were out. To have their pardon. So their records were expunged and stuff. West Virginia will put you in state prison if you are over a certain amount. I don't even see a problem selling it. You can grow it for fornication's sake. In Texas, it's still illegal. You're put in prison over a certain amount because you're a dealer. Yeah, but how do you get it, Walter? And what's wrong with dealing it? If there's nothing wrong with buying it, why is there something wrong with selling it? It's a plant, meth, coke, or other narcotics I can understand, but something I can grow with a pot and Miracle-Gro is ridiculous. Opium is a plant. Okay, you got me there. When he does, all right, so we're back to Hinckley. RFK thinks it's okay for the poor and weak to suffer because his privileged ass snicked cocaine off a golden toilet. Well, yeah, it's hard to believe that we take healthcare advice from a former cocaine addict with a freezer full of roadkill who wears a raccoon penis around his neck. Well, Harry, he might actually regret what he did, but you know what? He shot the president of the United States and he destroyed the life of James Brady. Can't take those things back. I'm just clarifying that he was never put in prison. He was released from a mental institution. I'm sure there are men and women who have been wrongly or harshly convicted, but when men and women challenge the law, this is what happens. Simple, plain and simple. Latest estimates by Justice Bureau is 22,000 on cannabis-related charges and other nonviolent charges. Marijuana is illegal in the United Kingdom, but the ability of the government to actually enforce its weed laws is non-existent. So just in Texas still criminalizes ordinarily marijuana possession, and even a small usable amount can expose you to jail. Under current Texas law, 2 ounces or less is a Class B misdemeanor with up to 880 days in county jail. More than 2 ounces, up to 4 ounces, is a Class A misdemeanor, up to a year in jail, and more than 4 ounces, up to 5 pounds, state jail felony. Larger amounts escalate through progressively more serious felonies. So, like, I know that Walter's saying, well, that's because it's for sale, but like 3 ounces is for sale. I don't know how much you're going to break that down. And what about 2 ounces? To put in perspective, when the conservative government left office in 2024, there was 86 prison spaces left to use in the country. Oh, in Great Britain? How many? But like, how many people? Let me look this up. How many people in prison in the UK versus the US? I mean, obviously we're, have more people in our country, but the US by far has the largest prison population in the world. We have 365 prisoners per 100,000 people. You have 140. So we have like 2.5 times the prisoners per capita as you do. Altogether, you have 87,000 prisoners in the entire UK. That's UK, England, and Wales. Scotland has been around 8,000 to 8,500. in Northern Ireland around 1,900, putting the UK total around 98,000. We have 1.8 to 1.9 million. So, Harry, I respect you and I'm challenging you. I just find his actions to be disgraceful, and he never should be given the privilege to be among the people ever. I'll take the fall for RFK Jr. I voted for him in the primary. Dude. Why? I mean, 14 years of conservative government really fornicated over my country. Now the trend of thought in the chat is going to be from being a plant. I think it's an interesting response that opium is also a plant. I think that it's more, I just think that the impact of smoking pot is less than the impact of drinking alcohol. Like, I know people get drunk and beat their wives. I never heard of anybody getting stoned and doing anything more violent than eating 2 pizzas. Like, marijuana doesn't make you violent. It doesn't result in criminal behavior. I don't see any problems with smoking pot. And it's not really addictive. Definition of conservatives to keep things the same, considering how even every Republican is now claiming that they are going to make things better. Make America great again, right? That's sort of both things at once, right? Make things, they're not just trying to keep things the same. They want to make things go back to the way they used to be. What exactly that means has never been clear to me. Does it mean going back to when things were segregated? Does it mean going back to when, you know, like the Industrial Revolution? Trump seems to have a lot of love for the Industrial Revolution. When were things great that we're going to make it that way again? But that number is questionable because there are a lot of people that would be and should be in prison but aren't, because there literally just isn't room for them. Well, we have the opposite problem. We have too many people in prison that shouldn't be. It's always bothers these Trumpers when you just clarify facts. They have such difficulty comprehending that they have been lied to. I just think we need to reevaluate prison as a concept, honestly. There are certainly people that deserve to be in prison. You know, like I think violent offenders, I can see that. But there's a lot of nonviolent people that doesn't like. Like there are cases where prison as a punitive thing, like just for purely punitive purposes, some people deserve to be punished. Other people don't deserve to be punished, and putting them in prison just makes their life worse. It makes them worse. It turns them into worse people. And I wonder if it's worth it. Like, what are the alternatives that we could have to reform people and to help people become better people? And it's locking them up. I know there's some things where it's like you know, they like help people get a degree while they're in prison and stuff like that, which I guess is a start. But why do you have to put them in prison to do that? Why can't they wear ankle bracelets and go to like actual have a school? It'd be cheaper and it'd be better. They could work for a living. I don't know. Like, I think we need to rethink our prison system. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I haven't studied it. We'd have to study it, right? But I think that we could save a lot of money and have a better system that, you know, if we made it more about reform for nonviolent people than about punishment. And again, I think there are some people that deserve to be punished, but I just don't think everybody in prison fits that mold. It always bothers these Trumpers when you just clarify the facts. Nothing triggers a Republican like a fact, or a MAGA like a fact. I've noticed that too. You say something true, and they lose their damn minds. How are you? How many valid comment? However, there are many more people who should be in prison, but they are wealthy. Yeah, there's definitely people that should be in prison and should be punished, but they're not because they're rich. A lot of them are in Trump's cabinet. One of them is Trump. I mean, the amount of sentences that get suspended because they don't have a room in prison, 25% of prison sentences are suspended. In our country, it is not the bad people who are in jail. It is the poor people. And that is intentional. I think I've told you this story before, but in 1993, I went to go listen to this guest speaker. He was introduced as the first Black president of the Harvard Law Review and a community organizer. And this was right in the, the savings and loan scandal was going on at the time. And I asked this speaker, who by the way was Barack Obama, I asked him why these people weren't being put in prison. And he's like, well, the problem is there's no laws against what they are doing. And I was like, how can there be no laws against what they are doing? And he said, I'm sure Mark will agree with this, because they're the ones that, write the laws, and they're the ones to pay for the people that write the laws. They're not going to make the wrong things they do illegal. They're going to make the wrong things that are done to them illegal. And so that's why things like robbery are wrong and stuff like that. The stuff where they're the victims are illegal. The things that they do where they victimize other people, those are legal, because they're not going to make the wrong things that they do illegal. And that's one of those things I never stopped thinking about. So afterwards, I talked to him for about 15 minutes. And I was like, I got a jet. I got a lunch appointment. Went and met my friend that I was having lunch with. And he's like, why are you late? I was like, I'm sorry. I was just meeting the first Black president. That was my impression of Obama. And I was right. The prison system is one of the few industries we can outsource. We have to do it here, so it's big business. I think privatizing the prison system is one of the worst things we've ever done. Here, you've made very valid statements. However, there are more people that should be in prison that aren't because they are wealthy. But the world and the laws are changing. Watch what happens. Suspended sentences where you are allowed to not be in prison, but there conditions on your feet. It's like bond conditions. We have suspended sentences in America too, where people are let go because of prison overcrowding. But maybe we have prison overcrowding because too many people are in prison that shouldn't be. And then if we didn't have the people in prison that shouldn't be, there would be room for people that should be. Do you want a pot smoking air traffic controller? Do you want the pot smoking? No, I don't think that. But do you want a drunk air traffic controller or a drunk school bus driver? Like somebody smoking pot while they're doing the thing and somebody being able to smoke pot afterwards are different. Do I mind if an air traffic controller after work, one of the most stressful jobs there is, goes and eats a couple of gummies to relax after work and unwind? I don't care. If he's not stoned while he's working, I don't care what he does when he's not working. I mean, it might be good for some people to get good and properly stoned. You listening, Stephen Miller? Prison doesn't work as a deterrent. If we want prison to be a punishment, we need to go back to making big rocks into small rocks. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I would not mind if Stephen Miller spent a good 20 years making big rocks into small rocks. We should breaking rocks in the hot sun. We should take Kurt Russell approach. Will you make New York City a prison? Harry, I'm not a politician, but I do know that I remember when that movie came out. That's how old I am. Escape from New York. That's a good movie. I'm not a politician, but I do know this. I have a house in Yorkshire. I have businesses in UK. Have I followed the laws of the government to avoid problems? Why can't they do? As long as you show up to work straight, I don't see what you do on your own time. Make New York City a prison. It sucks anyway. Well, I don't know if don't start saying stuff like that. People are going to start acting like Mamdani is doing that. Mark, most people don't follow the law, and government isn't in the position to enforce its laws anymore, thanks to the Conservative Party. You'll notice that Harry is a big fan of the Conservative Party. And by that, I mean he is not a big fan of the Conservative Party. I just got here, but I'm guessing the stream is almost over. Yeah, we got about 10 minutes left. Exactly, So, but good to see you here. Kitty was here, and then she's not. But exactly, privatization of any of our criminal justice system is wrong. I think we have to start evaluating these things. Like, what is really there are so many things that we spend money on, and we always look at what we do to help people as like this is where we need to cut spending. I think we need to start looking at things like how much money we spend on prisons, how much money we spend on the military. How about we start cutting the funding for how we hurt people before we start cutting funding for how we help people? And again, I am not at all against punishing people who are violent offenders. But what's the difference between selling pot and buying pot? Like, if you legalize pot, you take out the whole, violence aspect of it. Just legalize it. And you generate tax revenue, and you get rid of all this, they've legalized pot in several places, and it's not like the crime went up as a result. Okay, Kelly, very good. Now you understand better what I've been telling you for months about how you control the presidency and all the men and women who work with them, with the finances. No, I always understood that. I think where I disagree with you is that Trump is also one of those people that does the controlling. He brags about how he used to bribe politicians. He said that's why you should vote for him. He knows how that system works. So he's not just a bribee, he is a briber. I would trust a stoned pilot before a drunk one if I had to choose. Oh my God, Miller. Can you, wouldn't it be cool if Stephen Miller just got good and properly stoned? I mean, and that just learned how to chill out a little bit. Super cuck Stephen Miller is in a lavender marriage. Katie Miller confirmed she was with Swalwell as well as Steve Bannon. Elon before hubby, right? I love the fact that Elon Musk made Stephen Miller a cuck. I think that is hilarious. I will never not laugh at that. He should walk around with a t-shirt that has the word cuck on it and then an arrow pointing up to him. Thanks to Democrats, most of the country basically in prison. Oh, Kitty is still here. She's listening and working. Very good, Kelly. I remember I told you a couple of months ago how I met Barack Obama when he was just entering into law school. He was a very good moral character and still is. I also know a couple of people that when he was teaching at the University of Chicago, I know a couple of people that were also professors at University of Chicago. And I have a friend that was a student at University of Chicago Law School, and they all played pickup basketball with him. And they said he was actually a pretty good ball player. Big fan of the Conservative Party. Greatest things that ever happened to this country was them getting 14 years in government, because now everyone hates them and they're never going back to the office. Yes, Lauren, thank you. I didn't. So Lauren Boebert's son is apparently filming child pornography and selling it. And so now he's being busted. This is the same one, I think, that got the teenager pregnant a few years ago. not an immigrant, not a trans athlete. It's just amazing how it's always the white conservatives with family values and Christian nationalism attached to their names. And it's like not. I'm surprised it's not a bigger story, because I have a hunch if it was like, Hunter Biden, there would be a little more smoke behind it. How come the national media isn't talking about Lauren Boebert's son selling child pornography and filming it? I don't know. Apparently the kids were from 14 to 16, so whether you want to call that child pornography or not, but it's 14 to 16. Like 14 years old is a little bit young to be filming having sex and selling it. Think about it. You have security cameras. You have glass in front of being able to get items at the store. You basically are living in a prison system. And the inmates are running free Democrats. I have no idea what you're talking about. I have absolutely no idea. Think about it. You have security cameras. I don't know what security cameras are you talking about? The security cameras that are all over the place that are put there by the Republicans? You have glass in front of being able to get items at the store. What does that have to do with anything? They have some stuff secured because there are shoplifters. Democrats aren't exactly the pro-shoplifter party. You are basically living in no, I'm not basically living in a prison system. I'm not even remotely living in a prison system. What a weird thing to say. Less prisoners in prison, more executions. I don't agree with that. But I'm sure you have pro-life in a bio somewhere. Waltons of Walmart do that because they are Republicans. Harry, I respectfully say to you, I admire the quality of your character. I can agree with your statement. Tell people have to follow the law. Otherwise, you have a state of anarchy, your country or mine. We have our live stream loose threads tonight. Oh, 9:30. So Kitty has a live stream where she talks about the Epstein files. Trump hid in a catering container to sneak out of Turkey from Iran threats while staff and reporters were still on the flight as expendable decoys. They were bait, and he's a coward. And I talked about that. I talked about this before, before you got here. This is why I'm actually saying is Trump a sociopath? Because he was willing to let those people die. He let them get on that plane. Like they thought this was a big enough threat that Trump should not get on that plane, and he still let those reporters get on that plane, knowing it could get shot out of the sky by an Iranian missile. That level of indifference tells me that Donald Trump is an absolute sociopath. Obama or Biden or even Bush would have said, warn them. They should know that their lives are in danger. Butterflybureau.com, right? And it's on Substack, is the name of her. That's where you can pick up her live stream tonight. 8:30 Eastern time, I think, right? See you, Harry. Thanks for dropping in. I believe in a strong military, but honestly, how many nukes does a country need? Billions wasted in nuke research and development. I think we can have a strong military and not spend more money than like any other country in the world. I think it's like the next 30 countries in the world combined, we spend more. But we need more. We're asking for another $1.5 trillion. And we spend all of this. We're the ones that go around attacking other countries. Other countries aren't attacking us. You don't need a ballroom if a catering cart. Well, yeah, that's what they should do. Just give him a catering cart. Call it a ballroom. He certainly doesn't have need any ballroom anyway, because It doesn't have any balls. I never understood the MAGA hat. Are you supposed to wear it over the white hood or under it? I think they just wear it so that they can remind themselves who they voted for. But I think they should spell the MAGA backwards so when they look in the mirror, they can read it. Who am I? I am Kelly. I don't know why this is relevant. I'm a human being with thoughts. Idiot. Okay. Apparently, you are an easily triggered Trump troll. Just like how Democrats refuse to mention the white girl stab on train, but push the narrative with the black girl on the train by white guy in a mask, but wasn't. I never understood this whole fascination, like with the Ukrainian girl that got stabbed by the black guy. We didn't have people like rushing to defend the black guy stabbing her. Like it's just this thing that all of a sudden, I never understood it. Like all of a sudden, you just get a black person stabbed a white girl, and so therefore, Democrats, like this is. Do you realize the trope that you are tapping into? Look up Emmett Till, dude. Scary black guy kills white girl. It's the oldest trope in racist American history. So I get it. I get it. You're a racist little MAGA, but you're not a racist. Is this stream also on YouTube tonight, kiddies? 9:30 Eastern time. It shows that everybody is just a pawn for him, and expendable, including his closet. Are you mean is closet like pejorative for cabinet? Anyone have any good Powerball numbers? Jackpot pushing $1 billion. Your odds are only like 1 in 292 million. Odds of dying by a shark about 1 in 12 million. Odds of fighting behind a your odds are actually better of winning the lottery than standing behind an undocumented immigrant while you're voting. So if that makes you feel better. Molester and Groomer Association. The UK can buy our lottery tickets now. What does that do to the odds? Doesn't change it at all. Your odds of winning the lottery are the same whether it's like one person or 1 billion people, because it's the numbers that get drawn. It has nothing else to do with anything else. In case you didn't know, like the odds are just the odds of actually the odds of winning the lottery are actually the odds of getting the numbers right. And the numbers, getting the right numbers has nothing to do with how many people are playing. I need money very badly. Please help me. If I had money, I would help you. I definitely need money. I don't know. I think any president is protected during a threat. I have no problem with them spiriting him off the plane and smuggling him off the plane. My problem is with them leaving the reporters on the plane. My problem is that their lives were threatened, not that his life was protected. I hope you can understand the difference. Why didn't they put him on the reporters on the cart with the president and put them on the same plane that he took and explain to them this was, there was this threat and they had to take care of the threat, and then they'd have this really cool story to tell about how intelligent and how creative the Secret Service was. Or they could have just like kept it a secret. And then but that they let this decoy fly with American citizens on it while we're at war and there's a legitimate threat to that plane, like if you don't have a problem with that, you are not thinking clearly. Like Brett says, they had a moral obligation to clear the whole plane, but they let them go in the sky. Gator never been about no poop. I have no idea what that means. We should elect Harrison Ford. He can defend his own Air Force One. There's a thought. If you haven't watched Shrinking, Harrison Ford is fantastic in that. I think it's just the way it goes. Again, I don't think Trump, asshole that he is, has any say in that choice. Yes, he does. He can just say, don't let the reporters go up. Like, that's all he has to do, is just say, I don't want people to die. He's the president. We're always told that he can do whatever he wants. I'm pretty sure he can say, yeah, I don't want to see the reporters die. Brett says, I don't agree. The threat was real. The Iranians did threaten, and they should have put the other passengers in a different jet if it was so real. They wanted to use them for a distraction. They literally did. And Donald Trump could have said, this is not right. And it's all because Trump insisted using Bribe Force One. It is really, really just disgusting to me. You would not agree with what Trump did if you were one of the reporters whose life was endangered. Well, the trend the mainstream media pushes is to downplay crimes by minorities. No, there's no trend to downplay crimes by minorities. My feelings are, if you are a violent POS, what's a person's skin color have to do with it? Okay. I don't even want to, like, I'm not going to engage in this racist banner about, just because they're black, we ignore it. No, we don't. We just don't sensationalize it. I don't disagree, but if you think that this shot hasn't happened before under a different president, you are being... No, I'm not being naive. If you think it has happened before, then you're being naive. You know how I know? Because there have been numerous reporters who have talked today about similar situations where they were either briefed on what happened, like there were two reporters that were talking about on 9/11 when they were up with George W. Bush, and they were told what was going on with George W. Bush there, and they were aware that they could be a target. So just ignore, like, that is not true. How do you know that it's happened before? You're making a supposition out of absolutely no foundation of knowledge. And then you are saying that if anybody that doesn't agree with your supposition is naive. Oh, who did I hit? So if you can't fix that, Brett, then I'm sitting here communicating by typing. If you can't fix that, I'll fix it afterwards. But anyway, it is now 2:09. I'm 10 minutes over. So it's time to go. All right. So that's this stupid, I'll give you $100 to smoke crack, dude. All right. So I will talk to you guys tomorrow. and I'm going to go and fix this whole thing with Walter now. Hopefully we'll get that fixed. All right, guys, have a great have a great evening. And I'm gonna fix this thing with Walt. Sorry, Walt, if you can hear me. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.